school year kicked off with a great start.
We're pleased about it. We feel like we're coming to a close of week 2, and so in the school business, we try to get in ruts, whereas people in life generally try to stay out of ruts. But for kids' sake and for teachers' sake, when I say that, I'm being a little facetious, but when we can get in a groove, get in a
Not
routine.
you.
Yeah, get in a routine, the better off we are. So more tends to get done that way in the classroom. So that's what we're hoping for.
A lot has happened in school since I went to school and you went to school,
Yeah.
and things have changed. We mentioned it earlier. I'm big on this app that the city of Andalusia has been putting out or recommending that we get out, and they're using stuff like this all over the country. Mm-hmm. We heard it mentioned. I didn't know it till yesterday that Faulkner University, during that shooting out there in Montgomery, they sent out text to supposedly all the students. There was a glitch in the system, and they kept people up to date on what was going on during the crisis, and that's kind of stuff we need to have, and the police department was notified immediately.
Right. Well, I don't know. I'm sure you know this, and the police chief Williams has been going out, and Sergeant Curry and the whole police force really. They've incorporated something into Andalusia that I think exponentially increases our safety. Not only safety, but allows reporting. It's an app that gets out there. I've got it on my iPhone, and you just download an app and go to the app store, and it's free of charge. If I can pull it up here. Yeah, it's called Live Safe. Yeah. And so anyway, basically what happens is, if I can talk about a lot, if I can get it up here for just a second, it won't take but just a second. But it's as safe as reporting information, contacting police. You know, there's a safety map on here, alert contacts, all those different types of things, and you just punch a button, and it literally goes to, if you want to report information, it pops up, and you can see this. I'll show it to you. It tells you what kind of nature you're talking about, whether it be health or some type of drugs, alcohol, hazing, bullying, harassment, weapons, all these other different types of things. And you just simply touch a button, or you can take a picture and report it to the police. Literally, I watch Officer, our SRO, school resource officer, take a picture and send it off, and 2 seconds later they got that picture, and that's how quick things could be reported. You as adults can take video with your phones. You can send it to the police directly. You can, if you're in Opp, Alabama, or Montgomery, Alabama, and you take it out, it will come here, but then they could send it to those guys. So they're not trying to be the world's policeman, but here in Andalusia, it's nice to know that citizens have a way of reporting things that go amiss. Also, and I feel like I'm working for the police department.
That's all right. I do too when I'm talking about
Yeah, I know, but it's really a neat thing. Potholes, missing signs, rabid dogs, whatever you've got. Take a picture.
Nosy reporters.
Yeah, there you go. Report it. Call into the police, and they can get you fixed up. I can't say enough about the app, but also but also praise the police for their being so proactive. In this.
Forward thinking on
Absolutely.
this. Do you know who the first person to use this officially was?
Benjamin Franklin.
No.
I have no idea.
Here in Andalusia.
I have no idea.
Me.
You, for real?
Yeah, I got it installed. Me and Curry done the story that day.
Yeah.
And we had a big storm come through, and I was driving around the bypass, and the lights were out at River Falls in 84.
Yeah.
And I took a picture of it and typed in lights out and sent it in, and boom.
You got the lights fixed and didn't type back good night or anything like that?
No, didn't have to say, OMG or, LOL or nothing.
I got you. Well, that's neat.
It was.
That is, it empowers every citizen to be a crime watcher. It makes our entire community a crime watch neighborhood, really does.
And what's neat about it, too, that I like, and I know we sound like we're working for Andalusia Police Department, but when you got something hot, and you got to talk about it, but it gives the GPS location within 3 meters.
Yes.
Okay, and that's 9 feet, folks, or 10 feet, somewhere in that neighborhood. When you press that button, if your child, let's say your child has one. Now, I don't know what the policy is in cell phones in schools.
Right.
Okay, but let's say they're walking off the school bus and they have one in their backpack. somebody comes up and does an inappropriate, act, the child can sit there and hit an emergency button right there, the red bottom button on the right, and it'll contact their parents, whoever they got on that list, immediately notify APD, give their exact GPS location, okay, and you got people on the way.
Yeah, it's just goes without saying that it just, again, I hate to just say how much safer you are when you have that. I mean,
I've got it.
I do too.
Yeah,
I mean it's just as simple as downloading the app.
And it took me about 2 minutes to download the app, and then it's all user friendly. But what happened? Just yesterday, they can text you messages.
Right.
When they caught that burglar, they came out and they sent everybody that had one of these a message. At least I think they did. Okay, and that the burglar was apprehended and was in custody, and wanted to thank the community for their support and all that. I mean, that's hot.
Yeah, I got the same text and thought the same thing. It takes out of the equation any doubt or fear or that might be prolonged as a result of not knowing what happens in a particular case.
Well, if there's ever, unfortunately, another escape or something like that, if you got the app, you don't have to wait for WKNI.
No.
Okay, and it kind of hurts the news business because we're supposed to be first on the spot, but at the same time, the most important thing is getting the public informed.
Right.
And that's, to me, whether it's through WKNI or through this, it's a good thing.
Awesome thing for Andalusia. I mean, that and I don't know if everybody realizes this, but that is not just everywhere. It is unique to
We're the
Andalusia.
first one in Alabama, I think.
I didn't know that, but I knew that we were the first in this region to do it. So
yeah, or region, something like that.
Again, just kudos to the Andalusia City Police Department.
Now, are your teachers required to have this, or
they have it? We had the app presented at our in-service, and I don't know if how many people we had to actually download it. They have a number on that, but while we haven't said have it there or else.
Right, but you highly recommend it.
Yeah, we highly recommend that app, but I think most of them have downloaded it.
Because, that SRO officer cannot be in every place. And if a teacher's having an unruly student or somebody comes in unwarranted into the school,
you're exactly right.
They can get help right away.
Gives the power to the people, so to speak.
It does. Talk about what happened at I can't remember where it was, where the boy just walked in to the school. We're talking about this because this is what people worry about with their kids. It's unfortunate we have to be talking about it. But I can't remember exactly where it was right now, but the boy walked in armed with an AK-47, and he was subsequently talked down from doing anything. But they had all the security systems on the doors.
Right.
And, the things that we've talked about. And what he did is he waited for somebody to go in the door and then just held the door open and walked in. Mm-hmm. You can only do so much.
That's true. And short of, Eddie, we've talked about this before, whether on camera or off, but somewhere between doing nothing and absolutely building a barricade and making it a fortress, which is not something that most parents envy having to send their kids into, lies the answer, I suppose. But some of it's on society to behave and do right and things along those lines. But we can't take those things for granted anymore. We feel like that that we're taking measures to beef up safety in our schools. Feel pretty good about that, but at the same time realizing that it's always a possibility that something could happen that would be detrimental to our students.
Awareness is the key thing. I mean, having anything that looks out of the ordinary, don't hesitate.
Right.
All right. A 1 minute hesitation can. I mean, if you can fire 600 rounds a minute to a weapon that these folks are using to get into these places and do these things, that's 600 potential lives in a minute. You can save it with an app like this. You can save it just by awareness and doing something about it. I believe there's a teacher that intervened on this last one and literally was just talking, put her life in jeopardy.
Right.
Well, look what happened in Midland.
Right.
The bus driver. you know, doing what he did.
Right.
You know, our kids are not sacrificable.
Right.
And that's something that I think, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, the police chief has spoken, we met when all this stuff, and the stuff happened in Connecticut, and looked at our schools, looked at our safety plans, all those different types of things, and he coined a phrase. He says hardening hardening the shell, or I guess you'd say of the building. In other words, making it harder, realizing that nothing is impregnable. You've got to do what you can to make it tougher on people, but that's what he was talking about, was just simply do things like lock doors, keep doors closed, make it just so it's not easy to do that. And he has statistics to back it up, and I didn't realize how comprehensive they were, but really, seriously, just locking your door at home, how it deters, or your car at the parking lot, how it deters someone that might break into your car or steal something or do something to you. You know, I read these people, these abduction awareness blogs or posts that are made on various and sundry websites, and they all say, "Hey, just don't make yourself an easy target." Yeah. And that's because that's what they're looking for. So that's kind of what we're doing now, making sure that we're not trying not to be an easy target, and have really gotten some positive comments from our parents who have appreciated and seen some of the things that we've done to try to make it a little tougher to get to our kids.
Well, Andalusia has a wonderful school system, and they've been hugely enhanced by having you come up as superintendent, in my opinion. When you were over at the middle school, I thought you were the top dog over there in that school. You know, surely they miss you over there, but you know, you're the superintendent now. Now you got to spread the wealth, as they say around.
Well, they're doing well over there. Miss Anderson does an excellent job over there, and just a wonderful staff of teachers. But we've got really good administrators in all three schools, I feel like, and staff members are our strength, and we realize that. And so that's what makes any school a good or great school system.
Well, it's going to be a little closer to you starting next year, the middle school.
Yes.
It'll be right down the street.
It will be. You know, you only have to take a short drive to the high school or the elementary school, and up to today, the last 3 days, something strange has happened over the last 3 days. I don't know. It's kind of been an eerie thing. There's this orange ball that has been appearing in the sky, and we haven't seen it for quite some time, and haven't really been aware of what it is or what to call it. I don't know what to make of this phenomenon, but the sun is coming out. I think that's what it is, the sun. Anyway, they haven't been able to do a whole lot, but just 3 days of good weather, and they started pouring the footings at the elementary school, and I think we'll be going vertical before too terribly long. Prepping it has been hard to do with all the rain, but the construction's shaping up. It really is.
Now, at the high school, they tore down the old, what was that building there?
Well, there were two buildings, actually. They were both attached to each other. The old annex building was built after the original Old Main building was constructed. And I think it's a 1958, 9, 61 miles, somewhere there, but it was an older model. And off the end of that there was a two-room central office used to be in that old annex building, by the way. The superintendent was housed there for a while. And then on the end, there were two extra buildings, or two rooms that were put on. And we were using that for in-school suspension, and that had to come down to make room for our building. So,
now, what grades are going to be there?
Going to have a 7th and 8th grade junior high school on that campus. It's really on the campus of Andalusia High School. It's going to be perpendicular to the old main building. Right. And we're excited about the new construction. We're excited about how it's going to look. We feel like it will enhance the community and enhance the school greatly. And I feel like it'll be very functional because we've got, speaking of safety, on that campus, there'll be a multi-purpose room that also serves as a hardened space, a safe room shelter in the event of inclement shelter or weather or things along those lines.
Yeah, I mean, go over to LBW and those new apartments that they built.
Have you been there?
Oh yeah,
they're nice.
They are very nice, and they've got the storm shelter in the middle. I mean, that again, it's foresight. It's visionary type things that are happening. But unfortunately, through disasters and tragedy, we find that we have to implement these things.
Right.
Enterprise High School is a perfect example of, and a sad one as well, that says we have to have something to protect our kids.
You're right, and there again, even with that, you're not foolproof or fool safe, because you got to get everybody in there, and that's an issue. But at the same time, how many people feel better about their chances if they have to get to a safe room as opposed to I don't have one?
Exactly.
And so this was a good time to do this. It's a good use of the money, I think, because it's a FEMA grant. 75% of the cost of hardening the walls come back to us in the form of a FEMA grant, and also it serves as a multi-use function in that it will serve as the cafeteria or the eating area for our 7th and 8th grade students during the day, and assembly area or whatever the case may be. So we'll get a lot of use out of that room, not just a place that sits idle waiting for a storm to take place.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, again, we talked about this, I think it was with Chief Williams or the sheriff, the way things are being built today with all this knowledge that we have that's being implemented now as they build, instead of, wish we would have put a storm shelter in.
Right.
And then cost more to do it after the fact than it is during the structure of the building. And I believe schools today, you go to these seminars, you could talk to these people all the time, but I'm assuming that schools are putting in inside sheltering and things like that, like you're talking about doing, right there in the school.
Well, and again, what happens is, and by the way, new construction now is required to have safe areas in it, and so
I see. I knew you'd know that.
Well, there you go. You know about the horse, and I know about that today. But anyway,
you brought it up, and we're going to go to that.
Okay, all right, good deal. Anyway, but if you know in advance, then what you can do is you can incorporate that into your plan, make it something that is aesthetically pleasing, and I don't think you're going to look at this building and say, "Wow, there's a safe room." And, we had that we were hung up for just a little while with the Historical Society in Montgomery, not locally, but Montgomery, and they had concerns because it was going to affect the aesthetics of a historical. It's not listed in the Historical Society or anything like that, but it is. It's a pretty elegant looking building. It is Andalusia, and I'm very, we want to take care of it, and we are going to. We have problems, and we're dealing with them, and all that kind of stuff. But I'm just saying, it's not just some cement dome stuck out there beside of it. It doesn't take away from it at all. It's actually 2 classrooms that I don't think you'll be able to tell the difference unless you just know.
Well, I looked at the drawings of it when I was there during the Coach Johnson thing that you had there, and I was like, really? That's going to look really nice. Mm-hmm. And we congratulate you and the folks that are putting all that together. We're going to take a quick commercial break.
Sure.
We're going to come back. You're talking about some of the things that have been next to my heart, obviously Destinado, but that's part of history, okay? And then we're talking about the history of the community. That's part of history.
Right.
And I've been blamed by somebody that I don't like, teachers or something. And but I want to get that clear. I like you.
Oh, well, thank you. I appreciate it. I'm glad you like me. I like you.
But we're going to come back and talk about curriculum.
Sure.
And Mr. Bice, is it?
Tommy Bice, Dr. Tommy Bice.
Tommy Bice had a big say about that this week in the media. And it came out publicly now, something that hasn't been talked about that much, but underneath the covers.
Right.
And I think we need to talk about it because there's a lot there that's missing. So we'll be back with that. We got he still hasn't sang Danny Boy yet, but Ted Watson, School Superintendent for Andalusia City Schools, and we'll be right back right after these messages. Remember, keep it real, keep God in it. We love y'all. God bless you. I'm Eddie Lewis reporting with what's his name? Ted Watson. There you go. Gosh.
Thanks.
Yeah, I know. And Destinado over there.
I think I think I know.
Good morning and welcome back to WKNI TV 25. We have Mr. Ted Watson, our superintendent for the Andalusia City Schools. Always a pleasure to have him in. Kind of gone over some things this morning, and we've got a few minutes left for the show. Good news. And a couple of months ago, I made a couple of statements about on the air, and I wasn't digging at teachers because I had already talked to some teachers, and they told me that there was a curriculum put out now,
Right.
not just in Alabama, but it's nationwide.
Right.
And certain states have accepted it, and certain states haven't.
Right.
And Alabama accepted it. And I believe Mr. Bice voted against it, or Dr. Bice had voted against it, I believe is what the article said.
Okay.
But he supports it because it's, part of the system.
Right.
Or he didn't support it. And but anyhow, there's what happened with me is I had asked several students or younger people about certain events in history that have happened in my lifetime. They didn't know.
Right.
And I'm not making fun of them. It was a concerning fact, for me, because I think history is a very important part of society, because without it, you have a tendency to repeat certain things.
Right.
And, people say, hey, never forget the Alamo, okay? Never forget Hitler, these types of things. And if you push history out of the way, you should have a tendency to forget those things, and
Right.
you'll repeat them. And but so anyway, somebody came out publicly on me and said I was digging on teachers, and it's not the teachers' fault. The teachers are being told that they have to teach math and English as a priority to get them ready for college and higher education. And I was just going to ask you about that, and I know you didn't tell your teachers don't talk about that, okay? Because you're not that type of person.
Right. Well, right now, all the craze is, I guess you'd say, on the political scene as well as in the educational world is what's called Common Core. Mm-hmm. And Alabama is one of, at one time there were 48 states, or 46 rather, the number
right.
escapes me. But anyway, that had signed on to do to teach Common Core standards. And the whole purpose of that was to unify standards taught throughout the United States, so that when a person could be in Alabama and apply to Harvard or University of Texas or whatever, and or just transfer states and go to another school, and there was some degree of consistency about what was being taught and what type of fidelity and rigor, and so. That was actually voted on, and the whole thing was brought up, to my understanding, by the governors of the state of Alabama, not by a president or anything like that. And so, brought on by some of the things that you're talking about. Now, I want to come back to the social studies part in just a second, but there was a real concern. I have known for a long time, and there are parents who are in town who recognize, not just in our place, but it's statewide, that we have there's some holes in our math curriculum, and it's been described as being a curriculum that is or was 3 miles wide but an inch thick, just not very deep.
Right.
And so we begin to see holes begin to develop when the kids got up into the higher grades, especially around Algebra 1. And I think a significant amount of research and understanding has taken place in the area of math, which in English too, which kind of brings about what you were talking about. The focus on the curriculum, as far as the core curriculum is concerned, has been in math and English for now. And we'll move into the other standards in science and social studies in years to come. But math first. And what I'm hearing our teachers say, and I'm basing that on, it's because it's a little early to tell at the high school level because of the
time element.
The product, right? The product has not come up there. But what I'm hearing at the elementary school is from teachers is that they're excited about teaching the new math curriculum. And as one put it, she says, for the first time in my 20 whatever years of service that she's had, we're teaching kids to think as opposed to just spit out math facts. And so that's a good thing. Now, it's harder because anytime you have to think and you have to come up with a conclusion or whatever, it takes tough, but it takes time and it takes, there's some frustration there. But these teachers, or at least the ones I've talked to anyway, it's a lot of work. We put a lot of money into it. But these teachers are excited about teaching this curriculum that is actually asking kids to think. Now, one thing I think that has been woefully wrong in the whole process is the lack of teacher input, educator input into what's going on. And I think that, what I really wish is that, let's come to a conclusion about curriculum. Let's come to a conclusion about what we're going to teach. But man, let's let some teachers that are doing this, that are teaching this stuff in the classroom, that are seeing the results and see the holes and the inconsistencies. Let's let them have some input in this deal, and that's something that's been woefully missing in the whole process, and that's just wrong. Now, social studies, that's coming, and so is the world of science. Science was kind of standardized through. Years back at the elementary level through something called AMSTI, and we're an AMSTI school in Andalusia, elementary and the middle school, and it follows them up into the high school. But the standardization of those standards of those goals, standards. There's a word, objectives is what I'm trying to say.
Right.
Is something that will be implemented in a later time. It has not been forgotten or forsaken. I am a social studies teacher, history teacher, and love that. I think it's very, very important. I have been called the king of useless trivia at that point in time, but there's never a day that goes by, even in Andalusia, that I don't hear something new about a connection with a family or whatever the case may be.
And just another.
Yeah, well, there you go. You're my dose for today. And so it is something that's very, very important, lest we lose sight of what's taking place. We are in the 21st century. Let's go ahead and call it. World War I and World War II are distant memories to some kids. And it's not where we all sit around and watch 3 channels anymore, so that we can say with some consistency that what kids are being exposed to on TV. We know that the media is multiple and widespread, and the news probably is not first and foremost on a lot of kids' agenda to watch. So it is up to us to make sure that these lessons are taught, and they're taught well.
Well, Mr. Watts, I remember back when I was in school that my social studies history teacher, I'll never forget him, Mr. Story was his name. And boy, you talk about useless stuff, he had us do it too. We used to watch the old movies in class where they, the Keystone Cops and stuff. He'd bring it in and say, today class, we're going to learn about the Keystone Cops. And,
Right.
just something just totally off the wall, but it was great stuff. He had our attention all the time. And one of the things that enlightened me over the years was, as far as things like this, was the ability to connect things.
Yeah.
All right. And there's that connection that I'm not seeing anymore.
Right.
I can sit here and talk about, and somewhat intelligently, and say that since 1940s, okay, we have come all the way through to where we're at with computers, technology, cell phones, smartphones, and we've seen the history of that as it's come about. I remember going to school and having the first Wang computer put in my hand in junior high school, and I fell in love with that thing. I thought it was the greatest thing. I punched, how many kids today know about punch cards?
They don't.
Okay, and they don't have any idea how this technology came to today. Mm-hmm. So it stops the invention part of the brain to say, well, you know what, this started from a punch card that was 3 by 8 inches long.
Right.
Okay, and all it had was 010101 on it.
They still do. That's the language spoken by computers today.
Right, but it's not. They don't know. There's no history to it.
Right.
Okay, and so in order for Newton to invent the wheel, he had to know there was a reason for Was it Newton? No, that was gravity. Or but he got hit on the head with an apple.
If that caveman was named Newton, who knows? Who knows? He may have been known.
Newton got hit on the head with an apple, made apple pie.
There you go.
Okay.
There you go. Now I know, son. Get another trivia fact.
There you go. But no, but history is important. Now with the media, you touched on something with me on that. Back when you and I used to watch media, you had the 3 channels, and you had news reported.
Yeah.
In other words, this happened today.
Right.
All right. I can remember where I was when President Kennedy got shot. I was in my second grade class. Okay. We had TVs in the rooms that we have public education classes that would come on, and we'd watch those.
In your classroom, you had a TV back then?
Yeah, we had a TV on a roller.
You were fortunate then.
We were.
Okay.
And this is, in Florida. I mean, they had it on the big roller thing, but anyway, we had it and we watched it, and we watched the whole thing take place from the Kennedy assassination, the first launch to the moon. I remember where I was at when Neil Armstrong, and rest his soul, he just died, made his first steps on the moon. And kids don't even know who Oswald was. Kids don't even know what happened. But back then, you had the news.
Right.
All right, you had the facts. Today, you get a little bit of the news, and you get different opinions of the newscasters, and people can't make up their own minds to what it is.
Well, it's almost like you can tune into. And by the way, I said 3 channels. Actually, it was at my house. It was 2 channels, and then unless my dad activated the channel changer, and that would be me. And if we wanted to get a certain channel, we had to go outside and turn the antenna.
Yeah, hand turn.
Yeah, hand turn the antenna until somebody screamed outside, "Oh, stop! That's good." But anyway, today you almost get to pick the flavor of news you want.
Yeah.
You see, I'm saying if you're more conservative, I think it goes without saying. Most people would go to a Fox network. If you're a little more liberal or whatnot, or you probably might tend to go to CNN or whatever. You probably tell the.
CNN's liberal?
Well, just tell you probably. I'm just saying that according to Fox people, they are. I'm just saying that you can tell a lot about people about kind of the news they're watching. I go to the gym and work out, and it's probably tough to tell, but go to the gym and work out, and you watch people on treadmill, and they crank up what the flavor of news that they want to hear, they want to see, and kind of how it's spun. Not that it changes what's happened for the day, but how it's spun is a big deal. I have never been so aware of the realities of what America came to understand as a reality when President Reagan was elected.
Yes.
He was the first TV president, I guess you'd say, and the importance of course, the whole, and this is something that nobody kids won't know anything about, but the Nixon Kennedy debates and the
grabbing the mic and
exactly that, and the shadow of the 5 o'clock shadow on Nixon's face, and how that played a negative role, and just how how it spun, and the importance of media in how presidents are made and sold, and I say sold. That's not a poor choice of words, but I'm just talking about how you're going to get
presented.
You're presented exactly right. So.
Well, you taught social studies and history, and I remember back, Mr. Story would say, all right, class, tonight's assignment is to go home and read the newspaper.
Right.
All right. Cut out an article, read it, and come report on it tomorrow.
Right.
Okay, you done that, I'm sure.
Yeah, we had current event day on.
Yeah, current event day.
Yeah.
And I used to love that day.
Yeah.
Because I'd sit there and I'd scour through the entire newspaper, and, it didn't matter what it was. He, just bring it in and report on it.
Right.
And I dare to say, maybe I'm wrong, but I don't think that happens today.
And I'll also tell you this: teachers are under it's a different world. The classroom is a different world today than it was when you and I went through the classroom. They have standards they have to teach.
Right.
They have objectives that they have to cover. And I'm gonna tell you, in the years with the Educate Alabama and the previous evaluation system, they're held accountable through testing, and they are good or bad in the eyes of the powers that be, based on those test scores.
That's another question of who the powers to be are.
Well, there you go. And then and so there again, who makes that decision? And there's been an emphasis on really an emphasis on high stakes testing, nationwide,
Right.
And you're deemed good or bad based on the results of your kids. And the year 2015, 16 is the year where our new Educate Alabama evaluation system goes into effect, wherein there will be a formative component and a summative component to the whole process of evaluation.
Bottom line, it's not the teachers that are falling short of teaching.
Right.
Okay, it is what's mandatory for them to teach in the schools.
Well, let me say this. You will not go in, you can't go into an environment that is as heavily saturated as teaching is, and not have a bad apple or two, okay? And I'm sure that happens. I'm not saying that's in our place. It's everywhere.
I haven't found one in Andalusia or Covington County
well,
yet.
and I'm just making broad statements.
Right.
That's certainly not a whatever. But I'm just saying that can happen. I will say I'm very pleased with what goes on here, and but by and large, there has been a shift, an emphasis placed on test scores, and the emphasis has been on getting the curriculum taught, teaching the standards. I think now, the thing I get so excited about Dr. Bice is this: we've gone from a mentality where we said for years, literally over a decade or so, that we're going to prepare every kid in school to go to college. That's just so far from the truth. It's not even funny. I have 2 daughters in college now, and I know the cost. And first of all, everybody can't afford college, number one. Second of all, everybody's not is not ready for college or college material. Number 3, when's the last time you had a plumber or carpenter or brick mason or somebody, or electrician come to your house?
See, that's the other thing
Right. And then what did you pay for that?
Right.
And so they aren't out there. And so what we're doing now is the curriculum is being adjusted so that a new emphasis has been placed on career tech education. And that's something I salute Dr. Bice for, and I think you'll see us move in that direction. And it's like there's been a paradigm shift, even with regard to professions and jobs and things along those lines. There are literally 2-year degrees now that will pay as much or more than my daughter's degree that she'll get in college after 6 years, and a master's degree when she comes out as a speech therapist. So you have to like those things, and maybe
Right.
you're kind of as far as the flexibility of what you can do may be a little different, but still there are options out there for people, and I think that Dr. Bice and the group that's up there now is recognizing that and is allowing us to have some flexibility to move things around, move people in. We've got the permission to work with people in our community to do some things. One of the things I'd like for you to do sometime is go talk to Dr. Shakespeare and the high school staff about the E-Block program they've got up there, wherein it's really a remediation program for kids that have not passed the end of course test or the graduation exam, for those that are still taking the graduation exam. But for those people who have met the standard, which is the majority of kids up there, there's a block of time where they can pursue different interests. And like I told a local insurance agent that were getting into the business, I said, you're crazy if you weren't knocking down the door of the high school, asking them to come in there and talk to our kids,
Right.
Because it's a wonderful means of selling your product for 4.5 weeks. Now we can't let somebody we can't just lock you in forever,
Right.
Because we want to share the love. But I'm just saying at the same time that that's a great time to teach insurance, something good to your kids, but at the same time get your face and your name in front of those folks. I bet you didn't know the difference between term life and whole life insurance when you were in high school, did you?
Not in high school. no.
Okay. Well,
No, I did sell it at one time.
Well, and nothing wrong with that, and I didn't either, to be honest with you. But I'm just thinking, golly, what if we had a group of people? What if we had the opportunity to present that to kids?
Yeah.
In a setting that's not an academic, it's not a unit acquiring class.
Right.
It's kind of and you could present that to them, and then knowing that when they got out, that as a businessman, that's where they heard it from. So
Well,
anyway, I'm just saying. I
like that.
The whole thing is I'm saying this. This is to
You can
a plea to our business world out there.
Right.
You need to ask the people at the high school to be able to present.
Right.
Because I'm saying this square is covered with lawyers.
It's rich.
This town is rich with engineers.
Yeah.
We have a health industry here. All those different types of things. And you also have the testing world as far as the high stakes testing. We're moving away from the Alabama reading math test to something called the Aspire, which is the ACT driven and research based. But in the 8th grade, we're doing something called the Explore test, which we're now starting. We've done this for a while, but the emphasis seems to be, let's start thinking about careers in the 8th grade.
Right.
Okay, earlier on, so that when we get to the high school, you don't do what I did and just go to college because your parents said you're going to go to college, and then you graduate and you don't really know what you want to do. And then you have to go back like I did. But anyway, I think we're heading in the right direction here.
Well, I agree with that 1,000,000%, because I'm looking at the square when you said that. If you had a banker or Edward Jones Investments come into the school for a few weeks and talk about how to manage money, how to invest money and things like that, children coming out of school will be enriched with that information and knowledge,
right,
and be able to put it to work outside. Lawyers, well, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, I know.
But you've got judges that can come in and talk, and I bet you all 3 of them up there, actually 4 of them, if you count the probate judge, would love to come in there and talk about the systems.
Well, these classes are 4.5-week block, it's 45 minutes a day, and so it's not something that you would just be. Signing on for life.
Right.
But it would be something that you could make a substantial impact on the lives of 10, 15, 20 kids that wanted to hear what you had to say, and you had the unique opportunity as a businessman to tell it from your standpoint. And so in the next 4 weeks we'd have somebody else to come in. And so
I think it's a great idea.
Well, I'm just saying that is something that if you're interested in that as a business person here in Andalusia, or if you're interested in developing those types of things, then you need to make contact with Dr. Shakespeare, and he can put you on to the right person.
I'm going to get up with him and talk to him about this program. But one thing I want to talk real quick with you, I know we've gone over time a little bit, but entrepreneurism is such a key factor in the American way of life, and that is something that we need to keep alive at the early stages of education. Science and history. I'm big on history. I would have been one of your favorite students because I loved it. But these are things, there's parts of the brain that have to be stimulated, and that's a scientific fact. In order to keep things. And if people sit there with a cell phone all day long, or smartphone texting is teaching kids how to use another language entirely. And that's getting away from the English end of it. So if you're putting all this effort into teaching kids how to properly pronunciate, how to properly spell, how to properly read, and they go LOL, OMG, or R for RU, ARE, and just letter R, and U, okay, the letter U, and it's a whole new different, language coming out of technology. And what do you do with that?
Well, Eddie, I'll comment on that if you can spell entrepreneurship at that.
Entrepreneurship. ENT.
Anyway, it's kind of like the joke, spell chrysanthemum, I'll let you in heaven. But anyway, okay, I got you.
Is it nism?
Who knows?
It's being an entrepreneur.
And a good thing, this is what the powers that be. This is another Dr. Bice. This is not a Dr. Bice thing. We've known this for a long time. Getting people to do this and work together is the key thing. And I think we're further along now than we've ever been. However, you have 4 core curriculum. Not that the curriculum's out there, not that there aren't others that are important, but as far as the base that's concerned, math, science, social studies, and English, and reading's thrown in that at the elementary level, not mentioned specifically in the upper level classes, but it's there. It's implied. But the thing you have to do is you have to realize that all 4 of those things are married, okay? And that you have to teach. You have a social studies teacher, you have a math and science, English teacher, all those things. But what the people are realizing now is that there's so much more to be gained by intermingling or intertwining those things to have thematic topics to talk about that include or touch on all of them. The ability to plan for those guys, the time to plan for those teachers, to work on all of those common threads so that we don't have 4 different people shooting off in 4 different areas. And that's huge, because I'm going to tell you, in history, one thing I learned about that was the day that I learned as a student, not that I was going to go to Harvard or anything like that when I was coming through, but the day as in college that I learned to make history a cause and effect ordeal as opposed to memorization was the day that I really began to appreciate it and began to learn and took the ability to take what I'd learned with me forever, as opposed to regurgitating it on a paper or blue book and turning it in and leaving it out, and 30 minutes later I can't tell you what I just learned. So that's important. I think we're on that path, and that's very, very it's called thinking is what it amounts to, and trying to get people to think. And I went to a local business, and they were gracious enough to hand me a check, and man, we appreciate it. And I said, well, what can we do for you? And one of the guys says, can you teach these guys to think? And so what you have to realize is this. We have I don't know if there's anybody in South Alabama can boast as many doctors, engineers, especially our size, as we put out in Andalusia City Schools. There may be those that would say, well, I don't know, maybe we can go. That's fine. I'm not here to put ours against yours. I'm just saying I think that's something that we've done a good job of in the past, and is well documented. But we also have people, those people, some of them come back, but not all of them. They have a tendency to leave town. We have jobs that we need to have people for here, because as you talk to any of our guys in our bigger businesses, and they've all told us, listen, it's called brain drain, I guess you'd say. Right. People have a tendency to leave for the bigger money, the more glamorous lifestyle. A lot of people don't. I personally like the quieter lifestyle. Love Andalusia. I'm proud to be here. But realizing that we've got to educate people who are going to be here and that are going to come back here and work in this economy is vital.
And what's structured here.
Yeah,
in other words, we're looking at the aerospace industry, building here. We're looking at automotive industry building here. We have some textiles still here with, I guess it's textiles with Shaw. And, we have those tasks and jobs here, but yet at the same time we're able to go into the high-tech stuff, and you're almost leading this step by step for me, and I appreciate you hanging in here with me this morning, because getting this kind of information out to the viewers is very important, because Eddie's not the only one asking the question. You hear a lot about it. Some people out there just don't want to say it. Now, let's go up and talk about technology. How far are we going to go with technology being allowed in the schools?
Well, a good question. We've come a long way in terms of our tolerance of what's out there. The main thing is policies for cell phones, and people don't realize, but that's a computer.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
and
what
so
I'm saying, the Wang.
Right. So as opposed to the computer you had that was gosh, I remember the Apple IIe that I used. Where you put in one program at a time, and it ran really slowly. But anyway, I'm just saying how far we've come is just unreal. And do
you think any of the kids would know what DOS is?
No.
And that's the basic of a computer. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. And what was I talking about?
Technology coming into school.
Yeah, I was just saying that now we've gotten to the point where we say, listen, you can have phones at school. You need to have them turned off in your locker. Those different types of things. Sometimes we have to deal with the occasional problem, but you actually have schools out there that are having bring your own device, BYODs, what they call it, as one-to-one initiatives where kids can bring in. You supplement at the school with computers, but the kids can bring in their own device, whether it be a laptop, iPad, phone. The big thing there, to answer your question, is the ability to monitor that and to control it to a certain extent, which gets me into something else, and I'd like to talk about just for a second, is is infrastructure, and that's been in the news for some time. We've recognized that. I get this wrong every time. I drew a picture with our IT guy Gary Odom, and he says that's right about the pipeline that comes in, but I don't get it completely right every time. But the long and short of it is that we have an increased ability coming in from the Supercomputer Authority, coming into us, and we have our structure, our stuff, for lack of a better word, equipment, lacks the ability, and cable lacks the ability to be able to pipe it out to the other areas that are able to receive it, but can't get it because it's the
pipeline.
It's like a 4-inch line run into a 2-inch line,
bandwidth.
and then when it comes back out into a 4-inch line, you got 2-inch power or pressure. That's very. Gary's probably saying no, but I'm just saying that's kind of what the deal is, and we're in the process of trying to fix that right now. And the whole state really has come to realize that as we have started going to online testing, end of course testing, for the sake of just being able to get grades. You're going end of course testing. You have to have the test at the end of the semester. For us, it's 2 times a year, and in an expeditious manner to get the grades on the book and to make sure we know that you passed the test. And so everybody in Alabama realized, hey, that's an issue. The infrastructure is not in place. Some people don't have the equipment. Again, we're in the process of trying to correct that right now. It seems it's not that we don't have we don't know what's going on, but we're trying to work slowly, methodically, and try to take care of it as quickly as we possibly can.
Well, we have that same problem here. I don't know if you can see it, but there's a computer sitting all the way over there where that microphone is.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
See that little black box up there
Yeah.
on top of the computer?
Mm-hmm.
That's what we're talking about, the pipeline.
Yeah.
That is a full network receiver
Mm-hmm.
to the programming that we run right after this with
Right.
the walk. It comes over the internet, okay, from California to here, and it's up there. So
Yeah, when I think about this, I don't mean to cut you off, but golly, when I was the principal of East Three Notch Elementary School, and Bob Harry was at Church Street School, Elementary School,
Right.
we literally had 2 dial-up internet lines. This is in 2000.
300 baud.
Yeah, and one in the library, one in the office, and that was it. And then we moved to the elementary school where we were supposed to be state of the art. And then I'm telling you, this when we're talking about, this is 13, 14. So literally 12, 13 years later, we're talking about upgrades over there to the tune of that has made the whole thing wireless, and just totally not just made it obsolete, but it's there the middle school is just it's been totally upgraded and updone, but because it's been because of federal dollars that we've been able to spend there that we qualify because of our free and reduced lunch numbers that have not been able to be applied at the high school. So anyway, we're in the process of trying to fix that right now.
Technology is the beast.
Yeah, absolutely.
And that's our kids have to learn it, but again, at the same time, there's so many other things that I didn't want to be a teacher back when I was a kid, and certainly wouldn't want to be one today. There's no way in the world that the responsibility is so great, and these teachers have to learn so much more. It's kind of like, and I'll give you a good analogy of it real quick. Do you know it's easier to become a doctor of medicine for humans than it is to become a doctor of medicine for animals?
Didn't realize that.
Do you know that? That's the truth.
I didn't realize that.
All right, because the only species that you have to learn about as a doctor of human medicine is the person, the human.
Gotcha.
All right, a doctor of veterinary medicine has to learn all the animals, all the species, birds, avian, fish, all that, in order to perform. And that's what a teacher has to do today. And I'm not saying they're veterinarians, but they have to look at this whole wide spectrum of wow, I've got to know about that because I've got to have that in my classroom and things like that. So teachers today, I admire them. And if anybody ever says I don't like teachers, they better, But maybe one day I can be an attorney too. But with that being, say hi to Destinata.
There you go. I'll ride out into the sunset.
He rode a lot. He rode Chief Red Eagle. was the chief. Does that click? No? Nope.
Yeah, it does. And I want to think he jumped off the cliff over there in Claiborne, did he not?
No. He
Who are we
died of
talking
a
about?
ripe old age in Monroeville. And he was fully pardoned.
Okay. One of them jumped. Well, I'm not saying he died. I'm just saying he jumped off. You ever been to Claiborne?
No.
Which is right outside of Monroe. That's why
Oh.
it's my stomping grounds. I'm from that area. Not from
Oh,
there.
okay. Well, he's buried out there. So you know about Chief Red Eagle.
Yeah,
Okay.
gotcha.
Yeah, that's his horse buried there.
Okay, gotcha. They pulled a lonesome dove and brought him back over here from Monroe.
No, this is where he used to stay, Chief Red Eagle.
Oh,
This used to be their
condo, summer home.
center home, yeah. The big teepee sat right over there with Mike Jones's office is.
Was it a multi-level teepee?
Yeah, and that's why.
Two-story
It was
teepee.
a
I got
two-story, and it had a special room for the chief, like we do over there now with Mike Jones Jr. You know?
Now I know.
Yeah,
It's
that's
clear.
how. Hey, it came with the building, you know. And,
All these years I've been confused.
boy, I'm telling
Silly
you.
me.
And then you got the Murphy building over there. You know, that was the stables.
Yeah.
And,
Well, I mean, you know that the O'Neills had a mule born over here.
yeah, right over there.
And
And
then,
what's it called, Teresa? Poplar tree? Poplar tree was right there. Okay, and that's where they buried Red Eagle, or not Red Eagle, but Destinado.
Okay.
Destinado got wounded, and they had to shoot him and bury him here.
Okay, I got you.
Anyway,
I had
we got to go.
I had a dog named Freckles that we buried her. I have a hard time keeping up with that. So anyway,
Well,
actually, my dad came back from a quail hunting. I missed the hunt, and he came back and he said, "Well, Freckles had a heart attack and died." And and I said, "Oh man, that's horrible." And so Freckles was my dog, and so fast forward 15 years, and we were sitting around the table talking one day at a family supper, and we got talking about Freckles. And I said, "That was bad. You know, Freckles died of a heart attack." And my brother said, "Died of a heart attack? That dog ran up a covey of birds, and my dad shot the dogs." Anyway, he said, "I didn't mean to kill it. I was just going to pepper it a little bit." But anyway, so I buried. It was a traumatic time in my life, and so probably answers a lot of questions as to why I act the way I do today. So, but anyway, it's all good.
And then I can go back real quick, and we're out of here. But I remember I said 1940s is when technology started changing. That was Roswell when we got the alien ship, and we were able to take alien technology and start using it for what we have today. No, I'm just teasing, folks. I don't really believe that, but there might be something there.
Okay.
Little green men. Folks, it can only happen here. Little green men on the square with Destinado buried under the studio. And what was your dog's name?
Freckles.
Freckles
Yeah.
did not die of a heart attack.
Revealed on your show.
I'm
Ed.
telling you, there's some tears coming here.
Well, my daddy, if you bring him in, don't put him under the jail. He really didn't mean harm. It was just back then it was not the kinder, gentler world that we live in today.
Yeah, you got that right. Well, folks, we appreciate you. I almost called you doctor for some reason.
Please don't.
Yeah.
I'm not there. I'm not even close.
I know, but you're a good man. And Ted Watson, our city school superintendent here in Andalusia, it is a pleasure. I want the businesses to think about what he said. Contact Mr. Shakespeare and see about that program that we were talking about. I think that is a huge asset for our children in this community to have.
Well,
and I hope whatever insurance agent you talk to, whoever that is, takes you up on that and goes and does it. I ask Edward Jones over there and bankers, anybody, to get over there and do it. And lawyers, I mean, doctors, whoever you are, go over and spend some time with the kids.
Well, if you don't, probably somebody else will. And so, and like I said, that's a equal opportunity for all businesses to get in there and pitch their topic and with their flavor. So we're looking, and that's a hardship for our people up there who are trying to run that program. So go to them instead of having them call you.
Well, Mr. Watson, we certainly overstayed your time, and I appreciate you staying here and working with us on this, but a lot of good information got out today.
Yeah, I appreciate the time, Eric.
All right, sir. Thank you, and God bless you.
Yes, sir. Take care of yourself. Take care of that arm.
Oh, man, let me tell you something. I don't know what's worse, the cure or the actual injury.
Well, we don't want to have to dig you up and be talking about
Send me off to forensics.
let
to
you
find
ride
out.
Destinado in the dirt.
They'll find out that I'm never mind. No, I'm not part horse. But folks, thanks for tuning in. God bless you. Wow, you never know where it goes with him, Teresa. You know that. It's been calm today.
It really has.
The last show, you didn't cut me no slack at all. Today,
Well, you really don't deserve any slack, Eddie. That's why I try not to cut you any slack. But anyway.
Well, you did good today, and I
try to do better
appreciate that.
today.
Yeah. Hey, you and Bob Brooks need to get together and have your own show. But
Yeah, he's pretty good.
God bless y'all. Remember, keep it real, keep God in it. This is Eddie Lewis reporting with Ted Watson here, our superintendent, on the square where Destinado lies.
There you go.